So what if I told you you could take the Fujifilm X100V, strip down a few things, knock hundreds of dollars off of the price, and then make the lenses interchangeable? Well, you sure can now with the Fujifilm X-E4. So right off the bat, I want to say a huge thank you to my good friends at Moment for providing this camera for me for review. Obviously, I as a person would not be able to get a camera before embargo without them. So if you are interested in pre-ordering this camera, I have no idea when it ships or anything like that. I only know release date, which is the moment that this video goes live. But I will be able to throw a link in the description down below to the Moment store where you can purchase this and pre-order it through Moment. And I highly suggest using them. They are good people that do really care about the craft of photography and filmmaking, and just a great resource for all things in that kind of genre. Now, I would love to actually give you a ton of the specs, but as someone that actually does read the manuals often, this is what came with the camera. And as you know, I've received this before the official embargo goes for this thing. I don't have every spec in the book. What I do know is that the X-E4 has the same sensor as the X-T4, which is their flagship amazing camera, as well as the X100V, so it shares the same sensor and it has the same autofocus performance as the X-T4 as well. So you're adding the exact same sensor and the exact same autofocus into this little body, which was incredibly impressive. Now, I believe the camera is going to retail body only for only $799, which again, for the performance that you're getting for a stills camera, you're getting basically the performance of an X-T4, which again is their flagship model. So I'm not gonna lie, the X-E series from Fujifilm never was something that like really intrigued me. And it's sort of in the similar vein of the X100V, for those of you who watched my kind of first impressions video and the reason that I bought this one specifically. There's a few things within the redesign and the feature set that makes this the first of the X-E series, for me at least, that really feels like not only something that could be an incredible personal camera, but also sort of like an auxiliary tool for me as a professional photographer. So as you can see, the cameras in comparison, and I will do a separate X100V comparing it to the X-E4, but the size is pretty much identical, and if you really look close, the X-E4 is actually a smidge smaller than the X100V. Obviously, once you toss a lens on, you are going to get a little bit bigger on the X-E4, but the overall form factor and the size is incredible for what you get in this tiny, tiny, tiny little package. Now again, I won't make this into a comparison video just directly to the X100V, although I feel like they are kind of serving similar markets. I'll do another video and probably post it this week or early next, directly comparing the two, but from now, I will get rid of the X100V so I'm not just staring at it trying to compare features, and we'll talk directly just about the X-E4. I will preface the fact that I've only had this camera at the time of filming for 3 days. But in that time period, I've actually photographed at least 1,000 photos and have put it through a lot of its paces, from being indoor, outdoor, all sorts of different scenarios, and have really come away with what I feel like is a good description and feel of how this camera performs. In particular, I was very, very impressed with the autofocus. Again, I felt like it was up to professional grade to my standing, which, like, to me, I'm very particular about autofocus. It's one of the most important things to me. I felt like the face and eye tracking did an amazing job, and being able to just, stick the camera up to your face, find the subject that you want, and then you can recompose. It was a really, really easy thing. It tracked people incredibly well. I actually had a few times during this really small intimate wedding where the couple or some other people were dancing and sort of in, not an erratic way, but a more unpredictable way that for me and my manual focus cameras is a little bit more difficult. So I actually pulled this camera up to my eye and started using it because the face tracking on it and the movement that it had worked incredibly well. And I found it to be an incredibly valuable tool in that way. Honestly, for what I do as a wedding photographer, I would assume that it would capture everything that I could possibly need in those terms. So one of the things I love is just how simple this is. You have, your aperture and things on the lens that you can set. You can set it to auto. You can set this to auto. And then this kind of top button here comes default meant to ISO. So it made it really, really easy to just change settings. You have everything right there with you, and it's kind of like very obvious what everything is. And I will also say that Fujifilm's, just general way of working with exposure, when you set things to auto, if I wasn't photographing weddings professionally and having to worry about every frame being the exact same exposure, for personal stuff, I just tossed this thing on auto shutter speed, which basically means that you are on aperture priority, set it to f2 and just shot away and never came back with an unusable image. And then one of the things that is also fantastic on this camera is, yes, it has this flip screen, but then it has this feature where you can just click on the screen itself and you can just click to take a photo, which is unbelievable. The same feature exists on my X100V, and I've handed it to all sorts of family members. Like my 80-plus-year-old grandmother has taken photos for us of my family by just saying, hey, grandma, just click it on my face and it'll take a picture. I trust the auto modes. That's amazing. So you can literally hand this camera to anybody and just tell them, click on the thing you want to take a picture of, and it'll do it. It is as intuitive as a smartphone, which to people who might just be jumping into an amazing kind of prosumer, top consumer type of camera like this, they might be more intimidated by everything else and putting the camera up to your eye like a professional camera. But the idea that you can just click on the back screen smartphone style is pretty amazing. I'm used to the flip screen on the X Pro 3 as well as the X100V, and this kind of is a little bit different even than both of them. So it comes out and you're able to, do a little bit of almost like waist level style shooting, or you can turn it this way. So if you want to, photograph something from above and want to get that view, you get that as well. But the amazing thing is you can pop this thing back even a little bit further than that, and then you can bring it all the way up, and then now you have a screen where if you have a wide enough lens, you can use it almost like in selfie mode, and then it gives you a direct, view of yourself. And the other thing, as I was kind of searching through the menu functions, this camera also is compatible with Fujifilm's, webcam software. I think it's called the Webcam 2. And so for people who are, in Zoom meetings all day long, all that kind of stuff, this will be an amazing tool to kind of up your general streaming game. I think this camera also would be an amazing option for maybe some photographers, whether they are street photographers or professional or whatever, as just a backup camera. If you are a Fujifilm photographer in general, you can buy a camera that has the same sensor, the same autofocus as their flagship X-T4 for $800. All that stuff, I feel like this camera would be incredible for, especially at the price point. So I'm actually considering moving kind of my best recommendation for first camera from the X100V to this one because it gives you some more options and it comes in at a lower price point when you buy even the lens and the camera body together. One of the other things that I love about this camera, especially as a personal camera, is the Rangefinder-esque style of design. I personally love Rangefinder cameras and that kind of offset look. I don't like when the camera, and you probably can't even hear me very well anymore, is covering up my entire face because, the viewfinder's in the middle here. I love having a viewfinder that is off to the side it gives me the ability to open my other eye, kind of see what else is going around in the scene, and also have a better personal connection. I know for me, I've been using this camera to photograph my kids a lot. And I've done a few kind of like A/B tests where I'll stick this just directly in front of my face as if it was like a normal camera with a center viewfinder. And then I've done it where, you know, I stick it next to me. And the difference that I get in my 4-month-old's face between those two things is actually pretty drastic, because you can see me still with this thing in front of my face, when normally if you're using another kind of SLR style, you don't see that whole thing and you don't get the same personal connection. I find that these type of cameras, especially for personal work, are much less intimidating. Honestly, it's just like the whole Rangefinder-esque vintage styling with this new camera looks great, and also just, again, provides that kind of more connection with you as you photograph with something that's a little bit more offset. So adding into the things that I love about this camera, and then I'll hit a couple things that aren't exactly my favorite. That being said, the camera is so lightweight, especially with these f2 lenses, that they included both the grip that I don't have on here because I personally didn't prefer using it, but I did love the included thumb rest here. So again, the body is very, very flat kind of on all surfaces, but then the simpleness of just being able to put your thumb here and kind of offset some of the weight and things, assuming that it comes with every model. My box did, so I really hope so. And if not, I definitely recommend picking one up, but I do hope that Fujifilm does include that in all of their models. And then honestly, the biggest downfall of this camera, and it's not even really a fault in this, but the viewfinder is a little bit smaller, it feels like, than the X100V. The eye relief is a little bit smaller as well. But for the price point and everything, the viewfinder is amazingly crisp. The refresh rate is super fast. I've changed it to the boost mode for kind of performance. But in a professional setting, as a glasses wearer too, the eye relief was far enough back that I can see everything in the viewfinder with no issues. Incredibly bright, crisp, all that stuff. So in use, I had no issues with it. I just do like the larger viewfinders that are available on some of the other cameras. But again, that's just kind of nitpicking, because for the price and performance, everything, that is a very small nitpick. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe. I'm going to be comparing this camera to basically every other camera that is in Fujifilm's current lineup that is kind of that rangefinder style, with the X100V as well as the X Pro 3. So make sure you stick around for those videos. And if you want to pre-order this, again, I will have a link in the description down below where you can pre-order it from the Moment site. Again, thank you to Moment for sending this camera over to me for review and to kind of help with the announcement. As a photographer who loves this kind of stuff, it's been kind of a fun honor to be able to help announce a camera, which is, especially in the YouTube world, super fun. And I'm really, really honored to be able to do that. And if you are interested in just general photography stuff, and especially just very practical reviews, I try to make the stuff a lot less about the spec sheets and whatnot, and more about the real world use of cameras, like this review has been. Again, subscribe, that would be great. So thanks so much again, and I will see you on the next one.